CASA, where volunteers show up, listen, and provide caring support to kids who have been abused and neglected. Learn more about volunteering at showupforkids.org. There's a deadline coming your way.
Good view of Cedar Mountain from
The
here.
Italy sweepstakes ends at 6:30. Act now for a chance to win a 6-day
Is that
trip.
Hayden?
You're automatically entered.
Hayden's behind us.
CPR.org.
So that's correct, then,
Your
right?
gift
Yeah.
matters. The more people support,
We're only about
the
2 miles
more
from home, right?
resilient CPR
Roughly.
becomes. Ready to meet whatever challenges lie ahead. You can enter the Italy
That's Cedar Mountain
sweepstakes
right there.
with or without a gift. See complete rules.
You always tell Cedar Mountain because it's got the towers on top.
Support comes from the Colorado State Forest Service. In Colorado, living alongside nature is a way of life. That includes being ready for wildfire. Learn how to
That looks
protect
like a
homes,
highway.
property, and communities at livewildfireready.org.
This is NewsHour live from the BBC. I'm Rebecca Kesby. Now, from an author who led a reclusive lifestyle, finding a previously unpublished short story may not be so surprising, but when that author is Graham Greene, writing in a genre for which he was hardly known, there is cause for excitement. Greene, who was English, is remembered for his novels including Brighton Rock, Power and Glory, as well as the screenplay The Third Man. Still, judging by what he told the BBC back in 1969, he was probably better suited to writing short stories.
I set myself a minimum number of words. In the old days, it used to be 500 an hour. To encourage myself, I have to sometimes put as low as 200 words a day.
What are your preoccupations in your books?
The hunted man is an obvious one, isn't it? And I suppose it is a dangerous exercise, psychologically and sometimes politically.
Well, the story published for the first time this week by the Strand magazine in the United States certainly employs the hunted man at the dangerous edge of things. It's a ghost story, but why was it an interesting time in Graham Greene's life when the story was written? The Strand's publisher-editor, Andrew Gooley, has been speaking to my colleague, Sean Lane.
He wrote it after he had written and published a burnt-out case. And pardon the pun, but I think that he felt burnt out after writing a burnt-out case, and he just felt that he could not write another novel. He just felt completely exhausted. He was at that point in his 50s, and he just decided to dedicate himself to writing short stories. And he had plans on writing a collection of several short stories. Ultimately, what ended up happening was he published a book of only 4 short stories, and one of them was a science fiction story. And as you can imagine, Graham Greene and science fiction seem rather alien. The theory is that the reason he didn't ask to have this short story included in the collection of 4 short stories was because it would be rather jarring for his readers to see a collection of a handful of stories where one of them was science fiction and another one veered into the supernatural.
And it is a remarkable read because although it has all the style of Graham Greene, it's a sort of subject that he generally didn't tackle.
He didn't. Only a couple of times. In fact, he wrote a couple of stories for the original Strand magazine, and both of them involved ghosts in movie theaters. Other than that, he did not get much into the world of the supernatural. So this is a bit of a novelty, and this is definitely more lighthearted than the 2 short stories that he had published when he was a much younger man, which were very, very dark and very sinister.
But this one, albeit playful, still tries to capture that sense of the unnerving experience somebody has when they read a ghost story late at night and then they notice the shadows on their own wall. Let's just pause a moment, Andrew, and hear an extract from the short story, which is called Reading at Night.
He stopped reading. If he had read any more, he wouldn't have had the courage it was. He lay a long time in bed before he recovered the senses of reality. Then he got up and went to the window. But this window had no catch, like the man's in the story. His bedroom was on the ground floor, and just as in the story, the wind pressed on him, but not with the same force. The spatter of rain, merely the effect of fingernails tapping.
There's certainly expectation there, isn't there, of something rather unpleasant about to happen. Does he let his reader into the secret? I don't want you to give me spoilers as to what the secret is. But is it one of those short stories where it's all about atmosphere, or is there a denouement?
There is a denouement. That's the reason why Graham Greene was such a fantastic writer, in that he could take a mundane event, or he could take something that would be life-changing for the average person, and he could condense it and ignite.
Looking at those people's toys, I got 3 of those side by side. 2 big, 2 RVs, one's a motorboat.
In my
Big motherfucking boat. It's all shrink wrapped for the winter.
Who I've interviewed, and a few who have written short stories, and they have told me several times that they can at times find short stories much more
That'd be kind of quite interesting to see.
In fact, many contemporary novelists today will just not even touch a short story, and it's just a measure of the professionalism, the talent of Graham Greene, that he was able to be a fantastic novelist, a prolific novelist, and a prolific short story writer.
You had to negotiate, I think, with a member of the Greene family to get permission to publish this. Is there a hope, do you think, that it will go beyond just appearing in the magazine and maybe also appear in book form at some point in the future?
I think eventually it will happen. The grandniece of Graham Greene was a wonderful person to work with, a great advocate for his works, and also I was fortunate enough to have a lot of communication with a few Graham Greene scholars, and they were very, very helpful in making the argument that this should be read by the public. To me, there can never be enough Graham Greene works out there, so I'd be the first person purchasing a copy of such a book.
It's obviously in the magazine. It's not the only example you've got in your current issue of authors jumping to genres they're not normally associated with, and again, another English author.
Exactly. We have a rare short story by Ian Fleming called The Shameful Dream, and it involves a world-weary journalist named Jeffrey Will
center of this case is a broader question over whether a judge can universally block a president's policy. Here's Jimena Bustillo.
The administration argued before the justices that individual judges should not be able to universally block the president's ability to revoke birthright citizenship. President Trump has long maintained that the Constitution does not guarantee birthright citizenship. So, on day one of his presidential term, he issued an executive order barring automatic citizenship for any baby born in the U.S. whose parents entered the country illegally or who are here legally but on temporary visas. But lawyers representing 22 states and immigrants argued that even if, in some instances, universal injunctions are cumbersome, in this case it is necessary since citizenship benefits are universally applied. A decision in the case is expected later this summer. Jimena Bustillo, NPR News, Washington.
The Department of Homeland Security is asking for 20,000 National Guard members to help with immigration enforcement. That's according to a U.S. official who is not authorized to speak publicly on the matter. If the Defense Department approves this DHS request, it would be a first. Here's Tom Bowman explains.
There's no sense at this point what role the Guard troops would play. It might be transportation or security, or if they would be detaining migrants or actually maybe taking part in arrests. Back in February, Texas Governor Greg Abbott gave Texas Guard members the authority to make immigration arrests. Now, this would be the first time Guard troops at the national level, a widespread effort, have been asked to assist in deportations.
NPR's Tom Bowman. The story was first reported by the New York Times. Secretary of State Marco Rubio has met with his Syrian counterpart as the Trump administration begins to wind down sanctions. NPR's Michelle Kellerman reports that the move is getting bipartisan support in Washington.
Speaking to reporters on a trip to neighboring Turkey, Secretary Rubio says he's just getting to know Syria's new leaders who toppled Bashar al-Assad's regime last year.
We think that a peaceful, stable Syria would be one of the most dramatic improvements in the region in a very long time. And we want to do everything we can to help achieve that.
Rubio says Syrian authorities, who are former jihadi fighters, are promising to build a pluralistic society. They've also asked for help, he says, in removing chemical weapons from the country. The secretary says the U.S. will help with that and will ease sanctions that were put in place during Bashar al-Assad's rule. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
The Dow is up 271 points. This is NPR News.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Total Wine & More. For discovering something new this summer, like a Chardonnay, sparkling wine, or tequila, learn more at TotalWine.com. Spirits not sold in Virginia and North Carolina. Available to adults 21 or older.
This is CPR News at KRCC. I'm Nathan Fernando Frescas. Colorado Attorney General Phil Weiser believes an effort by President Trump and the Justice Department to free former Mesa County Clerk Tina Peters from prison will fail.
There's no way in which state charges can somehow be countermanded by even the federal Justice Department. We have our own system. We enforce our criminal laws, and the federal government can't hijack that system.
Peters was found guilty last August by a jury of Mesa County residents of 7 counts, including 4 felonies. She helped facilitate unauthorized access to county voting equipment that she was supposed to safeguard. She's serving 9 years in prison. Health advocates warn a congressional budget bill could cause hundreds of thousands of Coloradans to lose Medicaid coverage. Here's CPR Health reporter John Daly.
Adam Fox is deputy director of the Colorado Consumer Health Initiative. He's in D.C. visiting Colorado congressional offices. The coalition is aiming to head off cuts. One provision would increase work requirements to receive benefits, Fox says.
Things like work requirements add administrative burden for every Medicaid enrollee. Even if they are given an exemption, they have to prove that exemption.
Republicans say they're looking to make the program more efficient. I'm John Daly, CPR News.
A Colorado raft maker has noticed recent challenges exporting products. Thor Tinky is CEO of Alpaca Rafts, which manufactures inflatable pack rafts in Mancos. Tinky says they're still selling internationally despite ongoing trade wars, but new policies are creating an administrative headache.
The bigger factor that we're seeing is on the customs side of things. We are already seeing shipments requiring a ton more documentation.
This is CPR News at KRCC.
The Italy sweepstakes is almost over. It ends at 6:30. Your donation is an automatic in for a chance to win. See the rules and enter with or without a gift at cpr.org. This is Fresh Air. I'm Tanya Mosley. Today, we are diving into the trillion-dollar machine that is the wellness industry. From what we eat and how we sleep, to how we age, move, and think, wellness promises to optimize every corner of our lives. Writer Amy LaRocca asks what's really behind all the promises of this industry in her new book, How to Be Well, Navigating Our Self-Care Epidemic, One Dubious Cure at a Time. In it, she dives into detoxes, colonics, infrared wraps, sweat lodges, wellness apps, and supplements to figure out what is real and what's really just good marketing. What she uncovers isn't just a collection of trends, but a vast and revealing system shaped by our beliefs about health, status, gender, and worth. She's asking, who does this culture of wellness really serve? Who does it leave behind? And why even when we see through the sales pitch, we still buy in. Amy LaRocca is an award-winning journalist, serving as a fashion director and editor-at-large for New York Magazine. Her writing has also appeared in the New York Times, Vogue, Town and Country, and the London Review of Books. Amy LaRocca, welcome to Fresh Air.
Hi, Tanya. Thank you so much.
Well, you know, Amy, I went into this book thinking I knew what the wellness industry was comprised of, but then I realized that there's so much under this umbrella of wellness that has made its way into the mainstream. So before we actually dive in, I want you to briefly define wellness and how big of an industry this actually is that we're talking about.
Well, it's enormous. And one way that it's sometimes helpful to think about wellness is to think wellness is a luxury good. I covered the fashion industry for 20 years, and one of the reasons I wanted to write this book was I started to get intrigued by the many ways in which wellness was being sold using the same language and techniques that I'd watched luxury products be sold to women for 20 years. It was almost like women were being sold their own bodies back to themselves. And the wellness industry is something that women are confronted with and asked to navigate on some level every single day. Of course, the degree of urgency varies wildly, but it's hard to imagine a scenario in which a woman is untouched on almost a daily basis by wellness. And it's such a complicated, such a vast web, but we're all on this like sort of metaphorical and literal treadmill of self-improvement all the time. And that's how I think about wellness. It's beauty standards. It's, feeling bad about your neck. It's also the very, very, very real health concerns about ourselves and our families that we're forced to deal with.
You need any money?
You make the point to say it's a luxury good that is really marketed towards women. I actually want you to read the first page of this book, which defines the ultimate female customer. Do you know a well woman? Odds are you do. She is everywhere with her clean, clear skin, sipping from a non-toxic container full of an expensive, mysterious broth. She is the friend who is not religious, but is spiritual. She swears by her transcendental meditation practice. She swears by a lot of things, like a very specific whisk for her matcha that she sourced from a very specific, ethical, artisanal website. She is educated, but not rigid in thought. She is a seeker, and she is unashamed of her frailties because she is so
Baby, what are you doing?